Well, we're all out of straws here on Ref the District for this coaching staff after a 29-26 loss to the Seattle Seahawks. It's time for a reckoning. Greetings and salutations, and welcome to Ref the District's Day After Reckoning, where we've had time to sleep on it. We rewatched the game, and we've got some questions that need some answers. I'm Nathan Perry. That's the Stoner here on the Believe Network. And Stoner, first question I've got for us is why did we bet against CJ Stroud? We should have known better. We should have known, like, the guy who put down $500,000 and he gets $6 million. And it's a shame he didn't use Bet Online, because if you would have used the code BELIEVE, BLEAV, he would have gotten a welcome bonus and been able to put on just a little bit more to that money. I'm sure he's not really feeling it after $6 million in earnings there, but I tell you what, you can actually head out to Bet Online or pull it up on your phone. Use the code BELIEVE, get yourself a welcome package. Get that money as you bet on NFL games, UFC, college basketball is here. You know, we don't like to talk about the Caps right now, as they're all older than Stoner and not doing very well. And the Wizards, maybe you could actually put some smart money against the Wizards every week, and you'd probably make out just fine right there. But again, use that code BELIEVE over at Bet Online and get yourself a little welcome package.
Hey, Stoner. Easy killer. The Caps are 6-1-1 in their last 8. I just want to put that out there. The old folks are getting it done in their last.
Old folks getting it done, indeed. And the young folks getting it done here as well for the Washington Commanders. We talked last week, Stoner, about how the fact that the young players in the game against the Patriots were contributing to a W there. Washington, as you can see by me not wearing a onesie, did not get the W here against Seattle, but they fought hard and they fought to the end. And I tell you what, the more and more this season goes along, the more and more people got to stop questioning. People got to stop sitting there and saying, hey, we got to evaluate at the end of the season. I'm thinking the future is here, Stoner.
What else do you need to see at this point? Look, we're not homers, okay? We were both a little bit skeptical on this whole Sam Howell situation, me especially. I was not a howler before this season started, before training camp started. But I've seen it. I've seen it with my eyes. I've seen it on tape. I've seen it in the stats. I've seen what he can do. And there's no more question in my eyes on whether or not he is the future, because he is the future of this team at quarterback. There's a few wrinkles that are going to go into it, Nathan, coming up, but I don't know what is it that you don't like about Sam Howell that makes you question whether or not he can be a franchise QB? I'm asking you, and I'm asking everybody who is watching,
who's still waiting to question.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that puts a near question in my head at this point of the season is who is going to be the staff next year. Do you bring in Eric Bieniemy again? You don't like Eric Bieniemy's offense. So do you bring in Eric Bieniemy, or do you give him another offensive-minded coach? In my opinion, if your belief is in Sam Howell, then you bring in staff that you think can win ball games. If that's Eric Bieniemy, that's Eric Bieniemy. If that's the offensive coordinator for the Lions, because I've seen a lot of people mock that one up, then that's the offensive coordinator from the Lions, or you've got plenty of opportunity or plenty of options out there. Bring in a young offensive-minded coach, and we're good to go, I think, because Sam Howell needs to be that guy regardless of the staff. I mean,
but that's not fair. That's where I'm going to stop you, Nathan. I don't think that's the wrinkle. That's what I don't think is fair. I don't think Josh Harris in this situation can sit there and he can say to an incoming general manager, Sam Howell is the guy, you figure out how to build around it. He's probably going to say that, but I don't know that that's fair. I don't think that's fair. He's got to say, do what you got to do. I'm out. You do what you got to do. If you think Sam's the guy, great. If not, we'll go find you your guy, whether that's in free agency, move up in the draft position we have, whatever.
Please, no more free agent quarterbacks. Please.
Well, I'm saying in what you just said is that the mandate is that the new GM has to come in, GM, and pick a coach, and they all have to
now
go
you're
Sam
putting
Howell.
words in my mouth.
All right,
Stoner.
what were you saying?
All right, what I said is if Sam Howell is the guy, he needs to be the guy of regardless of who the coach is. Okay.
Well, who's deciding if Sam Howell is the guy?
The GM and the new coaching staff will decide. But what I'm saying is if he's a franchise QB, he's a franchise QB regardless of the coaching staff put here, meaning you do not have to marry yourself to Eric Bieniemy.
Okay.
Which in my opinion, right now, I do think the jury's still out on Eric Bieniemy. This offense has not necessarily been feasting the way. A lot of it has been some Sam Howell heroics. The ball to Diami was an absolute dot, Stoner. The beautiful pass. But that was third down. And that was actually one of the things I went and I took a look at was Washington on first down. And I tell you what, Stoner, it does not look good. And the reason why this is important is because first down consistency in an offense and success on first down actually translate to a better offense over the course of a season.
Sure.
Because third down is so volatile. You either get it or you don't, and you're off the field, right?
Right.
And so first down really sets the tone. The best way to have a good third down conversion is just never to get there. So you need to be good on downs first down and second down, rather than waiting to be good on third down. Now, Sam has been fantastic on third down. These last three games that we've really seen that growth. The thing is that's not necessarily going to be as consistent as if he were fantastic on first down. But I don't necessarily think that's a Sam Howell issue. I think that's more of an Eric Bieniemy issue.
Right.
As when I charted most of these, a lot of these were short passes, and there was a couple runs in there. They weren't really successful, meaning they didn't even gain 5 yards, most of them. There was a lot of incompletions, even short incompletions. And I think part of that did happen to be the game plan from Seattle yesterday was they had seen over the last few weeks that everything was going short. So take away those short passes. And they did.
Right.
And so the offense really needed to get into these positions where Sam Howell was throwing it into the mid or deep parts of the field to be successful. And he was. You dared him to do it, and he was good on those, but consistently you're not going to be able to do that.
That's not sustainable. That's not sustainable over the course of a season. Might be good for a game here, 2 games, 3 games, maybe even a 6, 7, 8 game stretch of a season. But it is not sustainable throughout a full season, 2 seasons, 5 seasons, and so on. You can't do that. Nobody has ever been successful at doing that ever in the history of football. You've had some teams who've been really, really good at throwing the ball. Obviously, the Patrick Mahomes of the worlds, and Tom Brady's had some great seasons, but Tom Brady doesn't have great seasons throwing the ball 65 to 70% of the time. He doesn't do that. He has to have other parts of the offense. And like you said, you have to be successful on first down and second down and not always be stuck in this third down and asking your quarterback to make these incredible plays down the field to De'Ami Brown and the plays off schedule to Brian Robinson and all. You just can't do that consistently and think you're going to get away with it. So you're right. I'm in the same boat as you. I'm not sold on Eric Bieniemy yet as an offensive coordinator going forward. He's still got time, though. It's been 10 games. Let's give him some more time. Let's give him the rest of the season.
He has quite a slate to go, and I don't want to get too much into this because those watching us here on YouTube can see the kind of schedule there, and they'll see the RTDB out there as a third thing to talk about. So I don't want to necessarily take away from Sam Howell time, but when we're talking about the futures here, I just want to stress for me personally, Nathan, on this one, that's Sam Howell. And I'm not necessarily, in my belief in Sam Howell at this point is that if you give him a good offensive-minded coach, he is going to be successful. That doesn't have to be Eric Bieniemy. That could be another good offensive-minded coach. So that's all I wanted to say as far as that was concerned in that regard. Because I mean, I'm looking at some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about when it comes to running the damn ball. And I'm with you on the Eric Bieniemy part. I know that's a bit of a shocker for those who listen to us all the time, because I've been making all the excuses and talking about the short passing game. But something's got to change there, Stoner, and something's got to change with this front office. Like now, like I can't believe this is a second Monday or third Monday in a row that we're waking up and there hasn't been a change to the staffing and the Washington Commanders. I'm not calling for somebody's job per se. Definitely
Sounds like you are, but
definitely going to allude to it. I'm mainly just saying that I'm shocked, Stoner. But I'm going to allude to there probably should have been somebody at this point who was asked to step down.
Yeah,
you just gave up nearly 500 yards, and watching the replay, honestly, they got very, very lucky on quite a few other plays. That first half, if Geno Smith was a more accurate QB,
he was bad in the first half.
That first half would have been Washington would have gone in down at the half.
Sure,
but they were very, very fortunate that Geno Smith was missing a lot of throws. He didn't miss them in the second half, and Washington ended up losing the game.
Yeah,
and part of that, maybe that's Forbes, who got knocked out early because he knocked out Lockett, and with the helmet to helmet, and Blandino saying shouldn't have been an ejection. The pool report said, "Hey, these are bang bang," and New York makes the call, and they said, "Get the kid out of there." Regardless of Forbes, though, like this defense just continues to struggle. This is year 4, Stoner, of Jack Del Rio's defense. They finished top 5, and there's the air quotes for those of you listening into the audio. All right, there's air quotes around that. They finished in the top 5 last year. This was supposed to make a jump, and I wonder, because I asked a few weeks ago when we thought that Jack Del Rio might be let go after a horrendous defensive effort.
Yeah.
Is it going to be him, or is it going to be a scapegoat? Like, who's going to go? I wonder, are the trades of Montez Sweat and Chase Young the defensive scapegoats for the Washington Commanders? Is that what's going to keep Jack Del Rio around to the end of the year? That and the fact that he's buddies with Ron Rivera? Because it feels like when your defense is this bad, and you got a young QB who threw for 300 yards for the 5th time this season and 3 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. He did have the fumble, but when you have your young QB go out there and perform that way, and your defense on the other side has given up nearly 500 yards and plenty of touchdowns, and nearly 30 points for how many times this year, when your defense was supposed to be what was the reason why you were going to win games. And if you had a mid-tier QB, you'd be winning a lot more games. We're at 4-6 now. This defense is horrendous. Something needed to change. And then they booted out 2 guys. Were those the scapegoats, Stoner?
Well, I mean, at this point, you could say they're the scapegoats, but the 2 games they've been gone, their pressure rate has actually gotten worse that they've been gone. So you can't say, well, they're the reason the defense was bad, because it's gotten worse since they left in terms of their pressure on the quarterback. But I'm not saying that Jack Del Rio specifically and Ron Rivera as well should not be fired. I'm not saying that. They deserve absolutely to be let go of their duties and let someone else come in and do that. I just don't think it does anything. I don't think it changes anything. Do you think somebody's going to come in and turn the season around? Is Eric Bieniemy as head coach and, I don't know, Jeff Skanina as defensive coordinator going to turn this season around? I had a lot of people come at us and say, well, look at the Vegas Raiders. They got rid of their coach and they went 2-0 and everybody loves it there. They played the Jets and the Giants. Okay, let's not get carried away.
Abysmal Sunday night football game.
Let's see how the rest of the season goes for Antonio Pierce and the Vegas Raiders. You're not going to win a lot of games with Aiden O'Connell at quarterback. Sorry, you're not.
I remember, was it Jeff Saturday last year, right? That we came in, and didn't he actually have a successful 2 years ago? He had a successful first game, and then it dovetailed. Yeah, so you got to wait for the season. My thing is, and I talked about this in our instant reaction a little bit, and I saw some people disagree with me, and that's fine. Only one of us has to be right, and that's usually me. But what good does losing do for Sam Howell? That was kind of my question that put forth. And so
Mhm.
if Ron Rivera, Jack Del Rio are bringing something to the table that will help the development of Sam Howell, keep him around.
Mhm.
If what they're doing is detrimental to the growth and development of who we literally just spent nearly 10 minutes talking about being the franchise
Mhm.
QB, then boot them.
Well, answer your own question. Do you think Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio are a detriment to the development of Sam Howell?
Well,
Do you
Jack Del
think
Rio probably not, right? Because that's your defensive
not even
side of that.
close?
If anything, his poor defense and having to throw Sam Howell out there
That's right.
even more might
That's
be a
right.
good thing. Might
That's
just
right.
be a good thing. But
So
how about this, Stoner?
Do you think Ron Rivera is a detriment to Sam Howell's development? Answer that question.
You will always hear from me when it comes to Ron Rivera. Him as a coach, I think he's not a great head coach. Him as a
Right.
person, him as a mentor, him as a coach in the sense that what he brings to the locker room,
Mhm.
I think that is valuable. Okay.
Okay.
Him on Sundays, him through the week game planning, that part of Ron Rivera's aspect, not a huge fan of. I
Good answer.
wasn't when they hired him.
Good answer. You haven't answered the question though. Is Ron Rivera a detriment to Sam Howell's development?
So
If
I'm
if
gonna
by
ask a
him sticking
question.
around, is that stunting the growth of Sam Howell?
So let me answer with a question of my own.
That's not
Wouldn't
it.
it be better to
Mhm.
put Eric Bieniemy as a interim head coach? He's already the assistant head coach as it is,
Mhm.
as the interim head coach to see whether or not he is the guy, and you can develop Sam Howell in that fashion.
Okay, so fine. I'm not going to let you get away with it. I'm going to come back to it because you still haven't answered it, but I'll answer your question. Absolutely not. That is not what you want to
Okay,
do with Eric Bieniemy.
sure.
You've said it. Everybody said it from the beginning. This season is all about the development of Sam Howell.
Mhm.
So now you're going to take away what you believe is the best coaching that he's gotten in Eric Bieniemy, and you're going to take Eric Bieniemy's duties and double or triple it now by making him the interim head coach, which is going to take away from his time with Sam Howell. So that's not a good idea to take Eric Bieniemy's time away from Sam Howell. So I don't agree that he should be given any sort of interim head coach. That's why I don't think that they should be fired. They deserve to be fired, but I
They've
don't think
earned
that they
that.
should be fired because one, there's nobody sitting out there who's going to come in and turn things around. So what good does that do you? I understand people want, they want to chop some heads off and put their heads on the block and say, hey, you need to be held accountable for this. But it doesn't do any good for the biggest thing that you're doing this year, which is developing Sam Howell. So no.
For what it's worth, I agree with you that neither one of those are detrimental to Sam Howell's development in that regard. So you're
Okay.
right. You got to keep them. You're right that we as fans want some accountability
Mm-hmm.
and for things to change. I mean, both of us thought Washington at this point was going to be 5-5.
Mm-hmm.
So we're only one game off of that, losing to the abysmal Chicago Bears or
Or the
the
Giants.
Giants,
Right.
making the difference there. Poor Trev, man, he was so optimistic. He had them at 7-3. Poor Trev, man.
Poor Trev.
So it didn't come about the way we expected, though.
Mm-hmm.
We expected the defense to carry the way and for Sam Howell to take his lickings.
Yeah.
I don't think any one of us, even Trev and all of his optimism, expected Sam Howell 10 games in to be leading the league in passing yards,
Yeah.
to be top 3 in touchdowns,
Yeah.
to have, top and pass attempts, but that's where we are. And I
Yeah.
think that it is going to be an interesting stretch down the way here. The Giants, Cowboys, Dolphins, Rams, Jets, 49ers, and Cowboys again. That
It's a daunting schedule.
that's a daunting schedule. And this is one of the things that I'm excited about for seeing from Sam Howell. Those are some good defenses in there. Eric Bieniemy and Sam Howell have been doing this against some, like Seattle, some not good defenses.
Yeah.
Seattle particularly was abysmal against the run, and Eric Bieniemy still just did not want to run the ball. Apparently, the offensive linemen did not earn their Skittles today.
Yeah.
They didn't get their little treat, Stoner. They didn't get to run the ball as much as you or I would have been calling for.
I don't get it.
And when I'm looking at these, I charted all the runs, as I'm sure you did as well.
Mm-hmm.
And they had not 28 plays in that first half, not including the punts, by the way.
Yeah.
They got 9 points. They only ran 5 times out of those 28 plays.
That's right. The least amount in 3 years.
Yep. 5 times, 8 yards. So they weren't great, by the way. I mean, it was an abysmal yards per carry on there, but Washington also had 3 3-and-outs to go with that.
Throwing the ball on those 3-and-outs.
And I noticed that, right? When I was looking at these, I was just like, wow, look at that, a 3-and-out or a 4-and-out, and they're all passing. Or they get a good run and then they pass, and it's a 3-and-out. The second half, they had 35 plays. They got 17 points off of that, and 9 of those were running, 63 yards on those. Interesting, as I mentioned, the success on first down. They had 2 first downs off of running. B-Rob in the second to last drive had a 15-yarder, then a 12-yarder off of first down running. On first down passing, the only truly successful time that they had. I mean, they had a couple 9-yarders, but they had a 19-yard touchdown pass to Antonio Gibson that happened to be on first down. But outside of that, I mean, they're not being successful until they start running the ball. So Stoner, why are we not running the ball?
I've been asking that question since week number 1, when the run to pass ratio was disproportionate. It was so out of whack. And then it just kept going in week 2. I think in week 1, they had something in the neighborhood of like 19 straight pass attempts. We're not talking about games where you're losing by 20 points. We're talking about games you're winning or you're down by 4 points.
They were never out of this game.
In
Not
this
once.
game against Seattle, you talked about they ran it 5 times in the first half. They were up the entire first half until it was tied. So it's not like they've been trying to come back and they just keep throwing it and throwing it and throwing it. And you even talked about they were playing up. Seattle was playing their corners up tight to take away those short passes. That's a good time to run when your corners are up that far up on the receivers.
Yeah, you get to the second level, you got the safety to beat, and you're done.
Exactly. So it's just mind-boggling. I don't get why he just refuses to run. People say, well, the short passing game is an extension of the run. To an extent, that is true, but running the ball is so extremely important to the success, not just of the particular game, but over the course of a season, over the course of a career. You're sending a guy back 40, 50, 60 times who's prone to getting sacked, so you're opening him up to injury. Interceptions are far more possible than fumbles are, so you're opening that up to turnovers, and you're just not putting the defense going backwards. They're coming forward because they know you're dropping back, and they're not getting hit in the teeth. Offense. Somebody, I think they asked Sam Cosmi about those 4 straight run plays in the second half. He was so giddy about it. He was so happy that they had those 4 straight run plays, and then they basically never ran again. And I just don't get it. It's not sustainable. I don't care what era of football this is. This is what's the new saying? It's throw to score and run to win. Shut up with that. That's an excuse to throw the ball more. It works if you got Patrick Mahomes. It works if you got Jalen Hurts. It doesn't work if you've got an offensive line that's bad at protecting a quarterback and a quarterback who takes sacks and a quarterback who doesn't have the experience. Stop throwing the ball at a 70% clip. You just got to stop it.
Yeah, it was
saying it every week.
On first down, they ran it 8 times and they passed 16 times. 14 out of those 16
first half
in the entire game.
Oh, okay. So
on first down. On first down, the entire game, they had 8 runs. They gained more than 40 yards off of that. They had 16 passes, 14 of which were short. So only 2 deep shots on 1st and 10.
Right.
And I'm going to read you the yardage for each of these passes. Okay.
On first down passes.
On first down passes.
Okay.
Okay. Incompletions will just be read as 0. 0, 0, 0, 9, 3, 0, 5, 3, 0, 9, 0, 0, 0, 19 yards and a touchdown. 0, 0. Not very successful.
Now, what are the runs?
On first down runs, you had B-Rob in the middle for 2-yard gain, B-Rob in the middle for 0, and those are your only first down runs that you had in the first half. Okay.
Second half.
And on the second half, you had B-Rob to the right for 1 yard, B-Rob up the middle for 5 yards. These are just first down runs, by the way. I have the details on the other ones as well. There's 14 runs. It's very easy to chart.
Yeah.
Then B-Rob left to 15 yards. B-Rob left for 12 yards. Gibson right for 5 yards. And then B-Rob left for 1 yard. By the way, those left ones, reason why Sam Cosmi could be giddy, because even though they weren't running to his side, he got the pull and knock out some teeth.
That's right. And that's what they like to do. And that gets them going. That gets you some momentum, gets you feeling good. So overall on first, do you know, like Sam Howell's completions? Like, was he like 3 for 16?
He was 8 for 16 on first down. 50% on
for
first
how many
down.
yards?
We got, do the math for me, because I didn't actually calculate that up. 19, 9, 3, 5, 3, 9.
About less than 40. So 40 yards in passing and 50 yards something in running, and in half the attempts.
It's actually less than 50, yeah, but point still stands. Point still stands. Yeah.
That running is important now. It was important 5 years ago. It was important 25 years ago. It was important 75 years ago. It just is. And everybody, again, wants to do this whole new age thing of just throw. It's not sustainable unless you have a Hall of Fame quarterback. And even they need some running once in a while. Even they don't throw at a 70% clip. Aaron Rodgers doesn't throw at a 70% clip, or back in his heyday. Drew Brees didn't. Mahomes doesn't. Jalen Hurts doesn't. None of them do. You have to run the ball, and he just refuses to do it. And when he does it, it's basically successful.
Yeah, and so one of the things that I probably have to rewatch more of the games, because when I saw it here, and my argument up to this point, Stoner, has been, is it successful? I've even brought this up on Sunday during the play-by-play. I actually called it. I said, they're going to start running, and it's going to be successful. Even though they're only down by 7, but I was just like, they're going to run the ball now, and it's going to be successful.
Yeah.
And you get 15 yards to the left, 12 yards to the left, 5 yards up the middle. And it was just like, I just knew when they do all that passing, it just does wonders for the running game. And so I just don't know if it's the reason, because when I do look at these first half numbers and I see 5 rushes for 8 yards, I can kind of understand why you don't continue doing that. Like, that's like running into a brick wall. And your argument, Stoner, is that you have to run into the brick wall. You just have to.
You do. Sometimes you do. Yes. Look, if you can give me a sample size of 20 rushes, let's extrapolate that out. So it was 5 for 8. So 4 times that amount, 20 rushes times yards for 32 yards. I get it. Stop running.
Mhm.
Maybe even just go to 15, and then you say you just can't run. But you just can't say 5 times, okay, we're done. We can't do it. 5 for 8, we're done. That it's not working. How do you know it's not working unless you try it? And then when you do actually try it, it starts working. Shouldn't that click something in your brain that says, okay, just because it didn't work on these 5 plays doesn't mean it's never going to work again. If you run 5 screen passes and they're all blown up, do you just say no more screen passes? No, you still have to run those short screen passes every once in a while to try to suck that defense up so you can go over the top. It's all part of a grand scheme. But if you just look at it like this and say, okay, 5 times we weren't successful, stop doing it. You can't do that. You can't have that mentality as an offensive coordinator. So he's just got to figure that part out. And I thought he did the last couple of weeks, but this week he reverted back to the same old, same old.
Yeah, we did get a designed run. That was kind of a new wrinkle, as we haven't really seen a lot of Sam Howell designed runs. Some of his bigger runs have been on these scrambles. The first down last week, this week against the Seahawks, it was a designed run for him. He got 15 yards off of it, but he fumbles at the end of it.
Right.
How much more do you want to see that wrinkle in? If they ran Sam Howell 4 times a game, upping the average to what, like 22 rushes per game, would you be okay with that if those extra 4 came from Sam Howell?
Yes, because what good does it do for you to be standing in shotgun with a running back next to you and then faking the handoff as though you're going to run? You're not going to run. And if the defense knows you're not going to run, then that play action is not going to do any good for you if you're doing some sort of these design type plays. So you have to at least show them when you run a couple of plays. Let's say you have a 3 and out on your first drive. That's not always a bad thing. You're setting yourself up for later in the game. You're giving them looks that hopefully that you can use against them. You can exploit later by them saying, okay, I see what they're doing here in these first few drives. I'm going to adjust. And then you turn around and then you start adjusting off of that. But if you just do the same thing over and over and you're just dropping back, that has no continuity. That has no flow. And the defense can defend that a whole lot easier. Yes, I want to see him run a little bit more. What I want to see him do is like Jalen Hurts does. When Jalen Hurts first started running, he was doing like Sam Howell's doing, right? He's trying for all these extra yards. He's trying to show his teammates he's tough and he'll do whatever it takes to win. Now watch Jalen Hurts. When he goes to run, a guy gets within 5 yards of him, boop, straight down. It's not worth it.
Yeah, we were calling it during the play-by-play. Slide. Like he got the first down, and then it was just like, just get down.
Yeah, but just because he slides and maybe he loses 2 yards on that run or whatever, he's shown them that you're willing to have your quarterback run, and that defense has to account for that. That's another weapon. Sam has the legs to do that. So absolutely, I want to see him run 3, 4, 5 times a game and just get down. If it didn't work, just get down and go back to second down or third down and figure it out.
Yeah, we've seen plenty of plays from Eric Milhouse Bieniemy Jr. that don't work. Second week in a row, Stoner, we got that tight end screen to John Bates, and I get that Eric Bieniemy was saying that he's underrated John Bates, but let's continue. Let's not throw those screens. Please stop it. For those who might not know, the play-by-play will have your answer on why his middle name is Milhouse. Lots of fun to be had on that. Make sure you're joining us on Sundays for that. Let's move on to our go-goes and no-goes. And this picture almost lines it up perfectly. They're not my answers, Stoner.
Yeah.
But for those who are listening to us in audio, the picture on this one is Tressway getting the helmet tap from Joey Sly. And they're not my answers, but I'll explain why I think they're the epitome of this go and no-go.
Yeah.
We'll start with the negative. Joey Sly missing that extra point was just, if he makes that extra point, he might make an argument for Ron Rivera to go for 2, because then you're up by 3 points, and a field that means Seattle has to score a touchdown to win. A field goal sends it to overtime, right? So he's going to be my no-go for missing.
I hate to burst your bubble, but I don't think that math works out. If he makes the extra point, that's 1 extra point. right? And
That's
then if they go
+1.
for 2, it's only
It's
plus
only
1.
1. All right.
Yeah, yeah. But I get what
Well,
you're saying, but that
yeah,
math
because they would have been up by 1. Yeah, they would have been up by 2
2
instead. Yeah.
instead of
All
10.
right, fair enough.
But
He
I
still
get it.
missed an extra point. He's
Yeah,
still
yeah.
he's still gonna go, not a my no-go, but he's the epitome of why that he's up there. And then
Oh, okay.
Tressway needs to be earning the special teams player of the week
Mhm.
again because Cheeseman continues to snap
Yeah, he's
erratically.
done.
And
He's done.
Tressway has been fantastic at corralling those and getting those away, whether or not it's him punting the ball or him getting those snaps ready for Joey
Mhm.
Sly to miss an extra point.
Mm.
He's Tressway. You guys were joking. You and Trev joked with me 2 seasons ago that
Mhm.
Tressway was, the reason why we couldn't have a kicker make field goals. Tressway is the only thing keeping the special teams unit together, those 3 in particular. So
Yeah. But he's not, but none of those guys are your
neither one are
no-goes
my no-goes or go.
or
So
go-goes.
I'm just cheating a little bit, Stoner.
Hey, I
I'm
like it.
allowed to do it.
I
Just like
respect the hustle.
maybe our new head coach next year might be Harbaugh, just kind of trying to get in the mood for it a little bit.
Yeah.
Pop shots aside, no goes there, Stoner, for you. Who is your no go for this game?
There's a lot that could be. And I mean, a lot of people were picking on St. Juice because of that last drive. He was bad in that last drive. In fact, I think in the last 2 drives, he gave up like 70 something yards of pass interference. And so he wasn't good, but he was okay kind of the rest of the game. First half, he was actually really good. But I can't give it to him. It's an easy one. Usually I don't like going for the easy one, but I'm going for the low-hanging fruit here. I mean, Jack Del Rio, it's enough already. It's enough with his defenses. This is insane. They're last in the league in a lot of categories, or at least like bottom 3. But one that I saw today, they're last in fourth quarter scoring. They're giving up 9 points per quarter, per fourth quarter through the course of 10 games this season. 9.3, dead effing last in fourth quarter scoring defensively. That's crazy to me that it seems like every fourth quarter they keep giving up so many points.
Yeah, games on the line, and they're
Yeah.
sitting there giving it up.
So
And
Del Rio, you got rid of 2 malcontents, maybe not malcontents is not the right word, but 2 guys on the
yeah, a
defensive
little harsh
line.
on Sweat, at least.
Yeah, you're right, exactly. But I mean, he's still got a bunch of first rounders, he's got some veterans, he's got some young guys, and they can't get it done. And I just refuse to believe that these guys are bad at football. I just refuse to believe it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put it on Jack Del Rio.
There's been a lot of weird hate against Jonathan Allen that I've been seeing over the last
His numbers are down
hours.
for sure.
They're down, but like this is kind of like the game before last where people were getting on Eric Bieniemy. It's like actually this was his like best game. John Allen walked away with a sack, 2 QB hits, had 4 tackles. Like he was in there, and it just feels weird that he's getting the hate. And I know part of that's because he's one of the leaders of this this team, and he was vocal last year with the keep that same energy. He was vocal this year with talking about how losing sucks, and it does. Losing really does suck. I know this not just because I'm a Washington fan, but because I started Jahan Dotson on my fantasy team, Stoner, and he got me double goose eggs.
Yeah,
Zero catches, zero like 0 yards.
Yeah.
He didn't even get a touch on running. He was only targeted twice, and it's frustrating. And this is why he's going to be on my no-go. It has nothing to do with fantasy. I don't really care about fantasy that kind of way. But it is very, very frustrating to have a player who was being recognized as a potential breakout star across the league, and he has been falling flat. I don't know if that's an Eric Bieniemy thing. I don't know if that's a sophomore slump specific to Jahan Dotson thing, but he's been dropping passes, and his routes just haven't looked as good. And I mean, you have De'Ami Brown out there snagging a heck of a catch. I mean, it was a great ball. Wasn't an easy catch. And he ends up scoring. And it's just like, that's what we were expecting from Jahan Dotson. We saw that in Dallas last year, the last week with him. And, Sam Howell. They had like something going. He was the wide receiver stoner that has had, outside of De'Ami Brown, but like this year, Terry McLaurin was kind of nursing that injury early on. Remember, he had the turf toe thing, so he was sitting it out. So Jahan Dotson was the wide receiver one and getting the time with Sam Howell, and it just hasn't translated to the field.
Yeah,
and I think
I don't know how you can put it on Dotson though. If he doesn't get targeted, how is he supposed to? What is he supposed to do? Like if he dropped a couple passes, I can understand him being the no-go. But if you don't throw it to him, what is he supposed to do?
Stoner, you gave your no-go last year to a guy who wasn't even on the active roster. So yeah, I think I'm allowed to put my no-go wherever I feel. Okay. And in this case, I don't care that he's targeted 2 times. He should be a bigger part of the offense. He needs to be, but for him to be a bigger part of the offense, Stoner, he needs to be doing better, and he hasn't been doing better.
Okay. Fair enough.
So that's going to be my no-go. Let's go to the positive side of things, Stoner. Who we got for you? Go.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned a couple already with Tress Way. Tress was again very good in helping out on those punts and the kicking for Joey Sly. Sam Howell's an easy pick. I'm not going to go for that low-hanging fruit on offense. Brian Robinson was really good. Especially helping out in the passing game. What was his final stats?
His final
catching the ball
was 6 receptions on 6 targets for 119 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, and showed really good chemistry with Howell, knowing to go upfield as a running back. Yeah. Normally you see those guys just try to find a hole or whatever, and he went upfield on 2 of those plays. But he had other plays as well out there in the passing game. And he was actually fairly decent running the ball when they actually gave him a chance. So Brian Robinson is my go-go for this week.
Yeah, he's absolutely fantastic. And if you weren't going to take him, I was going to go with him as my obvious go-go, because he was absolutely fantastic. Picking up 2 first downs on first down, those catch and runs. I mean, that was a pass, I think, of like 8 yards on the first one that he took 51 yards to the house. And then it was like a pass air yards. I think I had like maybe 6, and he had just, got 30 some odd yards after that one. I mean, he was a large reason why this offense was successful against the Seahawks. So I agree with you that he has earned those go-goes. But since he took them, I'm going to go with somebody else who I thought played very well, even watching the replay, was Percy Butler. There might have been a couple things that he could have done better, but when he was picked in the 4th round last year, I thought that this guy had the potential to match well with Cam Curl. And I thought that was going to work. And then Defoe ended up coming out and having a great season after having been injured. Well, Percy Butler is now put into, playing time because Defoe is back out, and he's, I think, emerging as somebody who is a solid safety for this team. Maybe not an all-pro, maybe not even a pro bowler, maybe not even in the hall of, this guy was good at one point, but right now I like what I see from Percy Butler, and I think that he had a good game against the Seahawks, and I think this is a game he can continue building on.
Okay. Very good. I like it.
Moving on to our final thoughts here, Sam, pointing to the future as they head to take on the New York Football Giants, who just got thrashed. We'll talk more about that game. Join us on the flagship Wednesday. You can join us live. And then, of course, we'll have our game preview come out on Saturday, and we'll be live for the play-by-play and commentary on Sunday. So if you think it's going to be a boring game, you'll need to watch us, because we ain't boring.
Nope. It's a good time.
We are not. We got some daily Commanders updates in between there on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. So those are always good information for you to have as well. You can get that either here on YouTube or wherever you listen to your audio podcasts. Whatever you do, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you leave us a rating and review. We appreciate that. Now, let's get to the final thoughts. Now that I've dished out all that mumbo jumbo that most people probably already tuned us out on, let's get to the final thoughts here against the Seattle Seahawks.
All right. My final thought is actually pretty simple. I get it that, and we talked about this, but I get it that Ron Rivera deserves to be fired. We know that just for the course of the 4 years, let alone what's happening this year. everything about building the roster, and year 3 is the year everything is supposed to come together. And now this is year 4. We built the roster, blah, blah, blah. He deserves to be fired yesterday. Jack Del Rio deserves to be fired yesterday. The defense is the worst in the league, basically, when you add everything up. But you can't fire him. You can't fire him right now. It doesn't do you any good. Reason number 1, it's not like you have somebody in the wings waiting to move up into that position. In Ron's case, you've got Eric Bieniemy. Sure, you want to see what he's got as head coach? I get that. But when you do that, you're going to take Eric Bieniemy away from his sole focus right now, which is Sam Howell. Sam Howell's development, greater than sign anything else in this organization right now. That's your number 1 focus. So leave him alone. Leave Eric Bieniemy alone. And if you're going to leave Eric Bieniemy alone, you're just going to have to leave the other 2 guys alone as well. We're just going to have to grin and bear it until the end of the season when everyone gets cleaned out, basically, except for Sam Howell. So that's my final thought on that. I don't want to see them fired because it's not good for Sam Howell, and that's more important than anything.
Fair enough. Mine is going to be Sam Howell related as well. And that is a question to those of you who are not yet believers on Sam Howell. I have been very understanding of wait and see. I'm a very, patient person. I understand that there are still 9 more games out there for Washington to, stumble upon, and they might just do that. And Sam Howell might look awful in those games. But what I've seen so far has shown me that Sam Howell has absolutely earned the right to be the starter in 2024. Now, normally I would be all for, hey, if you can get an upgrade, you get an upgrade. Maybe you think that new guy comes in, thinks that, or new person comes in as GM, thinks that Caleb Williams or Drake May or Bo Nix or Penix Jr. are like the bee's knees, and they want to go after them. Normally I'd be all for, okay, let's go ahead. That's an upgrade. Sometimes you have to cut bait, right? Arizona cut bait with Josh Rosen. There's teams that cut bait with Aaron Rodgers, with Russell Wilson. You just got to move on. Moving on from a Derek Carr, moving on from a Kirk Cousins, completely understandable. Goff is another one. He's having a nice resurgence there in Detroit. I normally understand fully well of like, okay, cut bait, move, get yourself better at that position. I don't know that for the next regime, you are going to get much better than Sam Howell has shown that he could be right now. And if you continue developing him, I think good things will come to the franchise. So I want to know from those who are still have their doubts on Sam Howell, what is it? What's waiting? Because right now I'm jumping both feet in, Stoner. I was a howler before, and I believed, but even that, I was cautiously optimistic. I'm done with being cautiously optimistic. We've got the guy. He's making the throws. He's learned how to avoid the sacks. Only took 3 sacks this game, and having rewatched them, he probably could have done a thing or 2 better. But you're going to take sacks, and Seattle coming into this game leading the league in sacks, it was going to happen, and I think he did very well. And I think we got the QB of the future, and that is something to be excited about as we head into our second Giants week. God, we got to get a victory against them. As I mentioned, you can catch us Wednesday live. Join the conversation with us as we have a lot of fun on Wednesdays during our flagship program. And we're presented to you by Bet Online. I'm Nathan. That's the Stoner here on the Believe Network. And until next time,
run the damn ball.
Be a fan.
Here we go.